So $10.2 billion finally getting this deal through. What did you think of this number? Was this in the realm of expectation for you?
Well, we expected to see SABMiller go over $5. We were thinking potentially to $5.20 in terms of the cash bid to win over Foster's and, of course, win over Foster's shareholders, more importantly. So it's within the realms of expectations and, of course, including the capital return and the dividend, it's over $5.50. So it's a win for Foster's shareholders in our view. We wouldn't expect to see that share price being generated organically in the absence of this bid. So it's a no-brainer for shareholders to take this. Also, although SABMiller are paying a reasonably rich premium, they're certainly not overpaying relative to the huge stake of the Australian beer market that they're now going to take control of, assuming this gets regulatory approval and so on. They'll have around 50% of the duopoly in Australia. And of course, Australia is very attractive given the high margins in the beer market here compared to the rest of the world. So it's something that SABMiller really have been pursuing for quite some time and quite legitimately so.
Yeah, they have been chasing for quite some time. So this is a deal expected to close by the end of this year. They need shareholder approval, which they look like they're going to get. But they also, as you mentioned, need regulatory approval as well. And, you know, being Foster's, which brews some of the famous names in Australia, do you think the government might have some problems here?
There's bound to be much wailing and gnashing of teeth within the media, and popular opinion is probably going to be against these iconic Australian brands falling into foreign hands. But really, from a fundamental perspective, the brands aren't going away, the jobs aren't going away, and there's no real argument to prevent this. And certainly from a competition perspective, we're looking at a duopoly that is simply going to remain a duopoly, albeit with a different owner. So we don't think the regulatory hurdles should pose a problem. If the popular opinion against these brands falling into foreign hands is the wild card, but we would be surprised if that did actually derail this bid.
Well, you know, Kirin Holdings from Japan also has a significant stake in the Australian brewing market. I believe they hold about 40% of the brewing industry as well in Australia. What does this mean for, I guess, brewing down under? How does this change the whole competition environment?
Well, it doesn't really make a major change to the competition environment. Previously, we had two major companies, Kirin, who previously bought Lion Nathan with about 40% of the market, and Foster's with about 50% of the market, so it's just a change of ownership there. We'll probably see potentially some discounting going through. It could occur if SABMiller decides to take that particular tack to push market share further. So that's the only real potential change that consumers may see. We could also see additional brands introduced as SABMiller looks to freshen up Foster's brand portfolio. But really, in terms of the actual dynamics of the market, they're really going to remain pretty much unchanged.
One more question for you, Colin. From all indications, it looks like SABMiller was the only bidder, in fact, for Foster's. Was this surprising to you, considering a number of other names were, you know, some said that Asahi might be interested, but it seemed like only SABMiller put in a formal bid?
Yeah, we expect it to stay that way. It's obviously quite an expensive bid to be making, and a lot of the other companies have their own issues to deal with. It's the argument for someone coming in over the top would be that Foster's is one of the few major brewers that's still available to buy. But we think the price premium required to actually win out against Miller would be too high, so that's going to be prohibitive, and therefore it's not particularly surprising to see them standing alone in this deal.